At 14 years old, he had no shoes on his feet, no food in his stomach, and exactly $0 in his pocket. Every single morning, he woke up before sunrise in a tiny one-room shack and carried heavy water bottles on his back through burning streets. Nobody believed in him. Nobody saw anything special in that dusty, exhausted boy. But 20 years later, that same boy stood on a stage, looked into a crowd of thousands, and said, "I started with nothing, and nothing stopped me." His name was Arjun Sharma, and he grew up in a small, forgotten town on the outskirts of the city. His father was a daily wage laborer who fell sick when Arjun was just 10 years old. His mother worked as a house cleaner, scrubbing floors for rich families who never even looked at her face. There was never enough money, not for school fees, not for medicines, and some nights, not even for food. When his father could no longer work, Arjun made a decision that most adults would never have the courage to make. He dropped out of school in class 8 and took over as the family's provider. He started buying cheap water bottles wholesale from a supplier and reselling them outside train stations and bus stops. Every day, rain or shine, he was there, shouting, selling, surviving. He wasn't chasing success, he was chasing survival. But sometimes, survival is where the greatest stories begin. The days were brutal. He would walk 10 to 15 kilometers every day, carrying bottles that weighed more than half his own body weight. His feet cracked in summer and froze in winter. Older vendors bullied him, station authorities chased him away, and customers often ignored him or spoke to him like he was invisible. But Arjun noticed something that nobody else did. He watched, he observed, he learned. What Arjun noticed was this. During festivals, cricket matches, and summer afternoons, the demand for cold water skyrocketed. But most vendors were selling the same temperature bottles at the same price. Arjun saved up every single rupee for 3 months and bought a second-hand icebox. He started selling chilled water. His sales doubled overnight. That small icebox was the first turning point of his life. Word spread fast. People specifically looked for the ice water boy. Local shopkeepers started asking him to supply cold water to their stalls. At just 16, Arjun was no longer just a street vendor. He was a supplier. He hired 2 younger boys from his neighborhood to help him distribute. He negotiated deals. He set prices. Without ever studying business, he was doing business. He had no degree, no mentor, no roadmap. All he had was hunger, and that hunger became his greatest teacher. By the time Arjun was 19, he had saved enough money to rent a small cold storage unit. He was now supplying chilled beverages, water, juices, soft drinks to 30 local shops and restaurants. But he was dreaming bigger. He had seen how big companies packaged and branded their products. He thought, why can't I do the same? Why can't a boy from the slums have his own brand? Arjun borrowed money from a local moneylender, a risky move that terrified his mother. He used every rupee to register his own small bottled water company. He called it PureRise. The label was simple, the packaging was basic, and the early batches were filled manually. But it was his. That word, his, meant everything to a boy who had owned nothing his whole life. The first year was a disaster. 2 big batches were rejected by a distributor for quality issues. A supplier cheated him. He fell behind on the loan payments. His mother cried at night, thinking they had made a terrible mistake. Arjun sat on the floor of that tiny shack and thought about giving up. Many people in his position would have, but he didn't. He fixed the quality issues himself. He found new distributors. He pushed harder. Your lowest point is not your ending, it is your testing ground. And Arjun was about to pass the test. Everything changed when a regional distributor tried PureRise and was impressed by the taste and price. He gave Arjun a contract to supply 5,000 bottles per week to convenience stores across 3 cities. Arjun rented a proper small factory. He hired a team. He bought machines. For the first time in his life, he paid his mother's rent, not from coin counting, but from a company bank account. Over the next 5 years, PureRise expanded into 12 states. Arjun invested in better packaging, stricter quality control, and a national marketing campaign. He partnered with schools, hospitals, and event organizers. He was invited to speak at business conferences. The same boy who once got chased away from train stations was now sitting on panels with CEOs. At 28, PureRise was valued at over 50 million. Today, Arjun Sharma employs over 2,000 people, many of them from the same poor neighborhoods where he once sold water bottles on the street. He has started a foundation that pays school fees for children from low-income families. He never forgot where he came from. In fact, he frames his first icebox, cracked and rusted, and keeps it in his office. It reminds him every single day of where the empire began. From a boy with no shoes selling water on dusty streets to a man who built a 50 million empire from nothing. Arjun Sharma's story is not a fairy tale, it is proof. Proof that your starting point does not determine your destination. Proof that hunger, consistency, and one small idea, acted upon with everything you have, can change generations. You may not be selling water bottles today, but somewhere in your life there is an icebox waiting to be bought. The question is, will you buy it? If you believe that your story is still being written, subscribe to Zero to Empire. Every week, we bring you real people who started with nothing and built everything. Your empire starts today.